Britain had been a great industrial nation at the end of the 19th century and in the beginning of the 20th century. Great industries like the steel industries, the coal mining, thousands and thousands of men were employed in the coal mining. But unbeknown to them, I mean, Cardiff, for example, was the centre for exporting coal all over the world. The British Navy ran on its coal. It was the best in the world. But then it suddenly started to go into decline because supplies came from other places that were exploited. And suddenly all these great industries that were very labour intensive suddenly found that unemployment was rearing its ugly head. And in 1913, for example, these Welsh valleys, the Lindsey Valley in particular, was top of the league for its production, although the miners weren't very well paid. There were tremendous problems then began to emerge, and they began to close the collieries, many of them. And these men, some of them travelled many, many miles. They would close a colliery. I mean, we can understand a little bit of it from the miners' problems that we had in this country in the 80s. But they were far worse in that period, because at least in the later bit, as awful as it was, there was some social security. There was no social security, really. Families were in deep, deep poverty. To quote an example of this, the Assemblies of God, which were very widely represented in the Welsh valleys, they had to send out special appeals to the other churches throughout Britain to send relief to the miners in the Welsh valleys. They were sending clothes and food and clogs and shoes for the children to wear because they had no money. It was a desperate, desperate situation. And you know, whole families, and they were big families. Some of these, one of the families, there were 12 children, and you know, many of them died young without any relief. So, and there were tremendous industrial problems that came to a head really by when the miners had their wages reduced. They hung out for weeks and weeks in 1926, but in the end, in desperate poverty, they were driven back, and their wages were reduced by about half. And it must have been a terrible situation. And I mean, it's a wonder there wasn't revolution, but people had no stomach for that. They were just drained. And where did religion fit into this was the question that you would ask. What men of faith would go into a situation like, what did the gospel have to offer? And really, we are insulated from these things with our welfare state, and thank God for the welfare state and for what we do for people. But we sometimes forget what our forefathers, the price they had to pay when they were pioneering in faith through situations like that. You know, Peter and John said, I said to a young fellow once, talking about it, he said, my favourite verse in the Bible is that verse that Peter said to the man at the gate, beautiful, silver and gold have I none. He said, I haven't got any either. And I said, yes, but what you've got to remember is Peter also said to him, but such as I have, I give unto you. He didn't have money, but he had something that he was able to impart, and the man leapt and walked and praised God. God give us that in our more affluent society.